Hello, what is up everyone? My name is Ben and this is my first Hyrox.
Oh, you make me wanna talk back.
So just to give you a little context about myself, I am a powerlifter with over 15 years experience now lifting weights from the very first time I stepped in the gym when I was 12 years old to this current day. And I've gone through a lot of different training periods. Mostly started off with my passion for bodybuilding and just getting into the gym to build muscle. But then I also transitioned into powerlifting. And I do have a competitive background in running where I have done a few running races and cross-country events as well. So I'm no stranger. So when Hyrox first kind of hit the scene and it was becoming more popular, it did spark my interest. But I had to go from being an 100 kilo plus powerlifter to then dieting down and getting back into cardio and running again. Since then, I have actually achieved a 19-minute PB in the 5K. And then if you look back at my powerlifting, my current best lifts are a deadlift of 260 kilograms, a squat of 200 kilograms, and a bench press of 130 kilograms. There have been times where I thought I could have done more, but you can't really speculate because when you're doing higher rep sets, for instance, I did a set of squats of 160 for a set of 12. If I put that into a 1 rep max calculator, I would have spat out some silly number like 230 kilograms, which I probably wasn't capable of doing. But somewhere in between my 200 kilo and that 230 would have been where I would have been at that period of time. But again, speculation. So I've got the strength and I've got a little bit of speed to go with it. So how would I actually handle my first experience in Hyrox? And this is how it went. So just to put a disclaimer, this was a local event and it was bloody freezing to the point where I should have been really wearing a coat for this event, but instead I had to go out in my short shorts and a t-shirt. I did put on some gloves because unlike Hyrox in a big expo centre, which is all indoors, the running was actually done outside on an icy road, which made it a lot more interesting. But it was a really well done event. And it opened my eyes to one thing. So here is going to be my biggest takeaways, and I'm going to do a play-by-play of each event as I went through. So the first 1K run was pretty much just a warm-up. I was already numb at this point, so I needed to get moving to get some blood in my system. I don't know about you, but I always feel really bad in the first couple of miles of any run I do because I am essentially warming up, and that probably means I haven't warmed up enough beforehand. But I just get paranoid that I'm tiring myself out. I don't know if that's something that anyone can relate. Then it was straight onto the ski erg, and luckily I had been practicing ski erg quite a lot. So that is like a rowing machine, but a ski format. This is quite tough, and it does take a little bit of timing and technique. But once you get into the swing of things, you can kind of carry a momentum across, and you don't need to go balls to the walls. You can just kind of coast with it. Then back out on the run and onto the sleds. And this is where I really regretted not practicing. So I was kind of banking on the fact that my strength background would allow me to lift the sleds quite easily. And it's not the case. You really have to focus on it. And what I'd say is if you are going into a Hyrox, practice squats and deadlifts. Don't neglect those big strength movements because it makes a difference on the sled push and the sled pull. So those were really humbling as I almost emptied the tank having to do those sled pull and pushes. It also didn't help that the sled pull was outside and my hands were actually completely numb at this point. So gripping that rope was really, really difficult. From then on, quite a few of the events were indoors, so I was feeling very blessed at that point just to be back in the warmth. The burpees were next, and another quite humbling experience. You don't really get an appreciation of how long 80 meters worth of burpees is until you're actually doing 80 meters worth of burpees. But it is a hell of a long way. When you're running it in an all-out sprint, easy. When you're actually having to get down on the floor and jump one by one, extremely difficult. The rowing machine, again, something I practice, you can't really go too far wrong. And being a taller athlete, over 6 foot, both the ergs, you can kind of leverage longer limbs. So I was actually using those two stations as a bit of a rest, just getting in the rhythm and allowing myself to get my breathing kind of back under control. Farmer's carries, actually surprisingly heavy. I really suggest using the chalk because the actual grip on the kettlebells is quite thick. So it's not like actually holding a dumbbell, it's thicker and it doesn't have any gnarling on. So it is quite smooth. And at that point, again, your hands are quite tired from doing the rowing and the sled pull. So it always feels heavier than you imagine it to be. Yes, you can actually almost run with them, but it's actually the grip that tends to be the biggest issue with them. At least that's what I was thinking as I was doing the farmers. I did have to put it down once very briefly, but that was actually to then put some chalk on and then completed the rest of the farmers carries. And then the lunges. At this point, my legs were on fire anyway. Not really doing that conditioning in training meant that my muscles just weren't used to doing that volume of exercise. And it really showed in the lunges. I was having to take quite a few breaks and kind of breaking it down into chunks of 10 reps at a time or along those lines. I'd have some kind of bursts where I'd do a few more than 10. But yeah, it really was quite painful. And that is 100 meters of lunges, which, like the burpees, doesn't sound like a lot until you do it. So be prepared. Then finishing up with the wall balls. My running was kind of ticking along and actually warming up as I was going, so it didn't feel too bad. I did have a little bit of a slight calf injury, so I wasn't pushing the running too far anyway. One thing is the actual accuracy of hitting the target, which can be quite difficult when you're fatigued, but I found them quite fun, and it was very different from what I have in my training background. So definitely something to practice going forwards in training. So you're probably wondering, what time did I come away with? Well, at this point, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't been looking at my watch, although I was wearing one, but I ended up with a time of 1 hour and 15 minutes for my first solo Hyrox. I was pretty pleased. I did think I could maybe do it slightly faster, but that may have just been me being overly ambitious. So I'm proud of myself, happy I got round. And the main thing is got round, because at the end of the day, actually doing that is an achievement. Because even when you're doing it in an hour, as some of the quickest guys are, it's still an hour of non-stop exercise. Your muscles are going to take a beating and your aerobic system is going to take a beating. And it doesn't matter if you do it in that hour or if you do it in 2 hours, it's going to be the same for everyone. They're going to get a good workout in. And I think that's what's so great about this sport. And you're always going to come out feeling like you've really worked hard. So would I recommend Hyrox to an average person? Absolutely. I think it's a great way to introduce someone to running, but also the gym. You do want to be pretty leg focused because those leg muscles are going to carry you through most of the events. If you had good quads, hamstrings and glutes, then you're going to be able to put a good time down on the table. If you enjoyed and want to see me do more Hyrox, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. For everything fitness related, I've been Ben, you've been amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.